It's over the edge, and it's taking it on. It's letting you down, come on, what the fuck? Filling your mind, that you lose will see. In the bathtub, and eternally. Just reaching your head, there can be no escape. Reality you see, they think it's a fake. Insomnia drives as you out your head. Don't lose conscience or lie in your bed. You'll dig it in from the outside and you'll take the upper breath. That's when you laugh and that's beginning to rip. Your idea is born, they take you again. Eternal nightmare like the horror begins. Your head is filled with nothing but fear. And as you lock down from a dose to tear. The devil will watch him die. I'm the one in the city. We're the best and I'm going to see.
You just heard Eternal Nightmare from Vio-Lence. This is our Thrash Extravaganza. Number 2, Vio-Lence, Eternal Nightmare.
Boom.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Jason. And we're playing with new AI technology right now. It's kind of fun. You have a noise canceling kind of program thingy. It learns
what to take out.
Yeah. So we can have laundry near us being done in our proximity. Yeah. I remember there were times when we were recording one of your Hamtramck settings, and like I think there was like a time we had the window open. There was like a gunshot or something. It was very metal. It was very cool. Yeah, it's kind of a cool landscape. Yeah, I listened to some podcasts that are like filmed or recorded in like New York City, and you can like hear ambulances and other kind of crazy stuff.
Hear that kind of shit. The street I'm on now is fairly quiet, but
yeah, I'd say it's way better there.
I think it's my 4th place that I've lived there. But
in Hamtramck,
when I was living above that main drag, that was probably the most like raucous.
That was, I think, that might have been where we recorded. I remember it during the Alice in Chains episode, and you were definitely living there. Okay, yeah, because Grindcore Coon was there. That was like the last episode he was ever on. He was sitting in with us when we did the Alice in Chains.
I don't even remember recording anything.
I mean, that was like 2013 or something like that. It was a long time ago. Yeah, sure. It was a while back. So this is our second one. This will be a little shorter than Dark Angel because we're only focusing on one record, and it is a record that Mark, you were pretty excited about this. This is tell us your journey with this, because this is one like I turned you on to, and then you like loved it even more than I did. But I think I was like, dude, have you checked this out? And I think you had some preconceived notions about the band.
I heard them before.
Okay.
And I hated them.
Okay.
I thought the vocals are stupid.
They're different.
I probably heard it early 90s. Okay. Because I was going after stuff. It was in the import section. Ed Ripka cover.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the name was kind of stupid too.
The dash is unfortunate.
But the cover was great. I mean, it's basically, it reminded me like a Dream Warriors, Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing. Like this dude falling within mouths.
Yeah.
With sharp teeth.
It's the eternal nightmare.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So that was like the initial thing. I was just like, oh, this is stupid. I was way more interested in, usually, the typical story, more interested in European death metal and stuff that's happening. Like that. It seemed kind of dumb. But going back, this seems to be like maybe the last great thrash record in my mind.
Well, Seasons or Rust in Peace?
They're like, that's legacy stuff. But like something like that, because that was like their career. Those bands made.
So you're saying the last like innovative, out the gate, latecomer to thrash, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not the last great thrash record, but it summed up everything I love in thrash. There's way more like New York, than there is in all the other West Coast bands that I can think of. Yeah, the gang vocals and bass playing. Mm-hmm. A lot of it seems...
A lot of D.D. Verni type, overkill type bass playing.
Lots of overkill. There's a lot of Anthrax in this too.
Yeah.
Like as far as the really like kind of that kind of more percussive guitar.
Yeah, it's like almost like if you like mixed Anthrax and like the aggression of like Exodus Bonded by Blood together. Yeah. It's like a weird East Coast, West Coast kind of meeting of the minds almost.
I kind of wish Anthrax had more of... I actually like this more than Anthrax.
Okay. I can see it.
Like, I like Among the Living a lot, but there's a lot of fat on it. Mm-hmm. There's no like Anthrax record that's perfect to me. Like there's a Megadeth record that's perfect. There's Metallica records that are perfect.
Among the Living's probably about the closest.
Yeah.
The first one with Neil Turpin's actually pretty fucking good.
I haven't given that much.
I think you would like it now in hindsight.
I probably would. Persistence is okay, but there's not enough.
You were a big Persistence guy when you were young. Because I remember when we recorded the Anthrax show, you said that had been your favorite.
That had been.
Growing up and stuff.
Now, like Among the Living's, it's got the best.
Yeah. And I'm probably so crazy that I might even say Sound of White Noise for me. But that's but it's not a thrash record. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a record.
I think Sound of White Noise is the best reinvention of a band that's ever been.
It's pretty up there. I don't know. It'd be tough for me to say best because I'm sure there's probably some weird example we're forgetting.
Well, like heavy metal.
Yeah.
Like that kind of transcended into something without being derivative. Because that was like grunge. They did something pretty fucking different.
I would say for a band, yes.
Yeah.
For a singular artist, I still might have to go with Ozzy. him getting fired from Sabbath with those last 2 records that kind of people thought were sort of forgettable, and for him to like reemerge with fucking Blizzard and Diary and Randy, and that's like kind of like a holy shit. That's like a character comeback that you're just like, holy shit. Maybe that's the greatest comeback in metal history.
I would say comeback, but I don't think it was a reinvention.
You're right, because Ozzy's just singing. He's just doing what Ozzy does. Yeah. He just surrounded himself with a different set of musicians, I guess.
But like Sabbath did a lot of weird shit, but they never reinvented themselves that drastically.
Radically, yeah.
Or that
maybe Heaven and Hell is a pretty interesting left turn for a band to take. But
this was like, wow.
Yeah, I know, and hey, you're preaching to the choir.
It barely sounds like Anthrax, but yet I was never mad about it.
Yeah, and I've come to grow. That was before I knew who Armored Saint were, and they're a band I've come to like love more and more, especially the more I get into like traditional early '80s metal.
They've got a documentary come out in 2021,
and from what I've been hearing, the new Armored Saint's the best thing they've ever done.
Nice.
Word on the street
this month too.
Word on the street from some trusted sources that I've seen on Facebook.
Give some of that stuff another listen, because I've always liked John Bush's voice.
They're good. That'd be a fun show to do, because it would force me to like look into them more, especially now that this documentary's out. Yeah. So maybe when we're done with the Thrash series in 2021 or the beginning of January or something like that, it might be a fun show to do. So
yeah.
But that is a really interesting debate, and I've seen that kind of come up quite a bit, which is, Vio-Lence and like Forbidden are like the 2 last great thrash bands to show up on the scene of like the original cycle of thrash. There's all kinds of retro thrash and stuff that's come out since, but they had been around for a while. They formed as Death Penalty in like 85, and then they finally switched to Vio-Lence. Did you know that originally Chuck Billy's brother played bass for
I saw some of that
Vio-Lence and stuff like that?
There's 2 different Billy brothers, wasn't there? Did he have 2 brothers that
was involved in it? This was Eddie, so I don't know what the... I think there was another Billy brother as well. And then he left after they appeared on... there was a compilation called Live at Ruthie's Inn in 86. That's like the first song that they kind of recorded for that. And Ruthie's Inn was that place that like...
That was like where everybody went.
Yeah. Was that East Coast or West Coast? I feel like that was New York, wasn't it?
No, Ruthie's was
that was West. There's one. What's
the jazz club that was owned by
L'Amour's? L'Amour's was the East Coast.
Is that the East Coast one?
One, the Anthrax and all those bands kind of hung out.
Have you seen Murder in the Front Row yet?
I have not.
The documentary?
No.
That goes into like they go into Ruthie's. They interview it was a black family that owned it.
Oh no shit! Okay.
And it was typically like a jazz club. That's always the interesting thing to me about a lot of these like subgenres of like how when extreme metal came to Michigan, they always played in gay clubs because there's like an off night, and like it was another like fringe thing to do. Like Todd's in Detroit, it was a gay club that on certain nights was a metal club as well.
Yeah, so it's almost like all the weirdos have to like hang out together, almost. Yeah, you know what I mean, or the ostracized people. Those are our people in a weird way. The fringe, or whatever. Yeah, I think L'Amour's the one that was sort of run by the Zazulas.
Was that in Jersey then?
It must have been Jersey.
I think it was in Jersey.
Yeah. John and Martha. Was it Martha Zazula?
I think they just put a book out too.
Okay. Yeah. Were they Megaforce? Weren't they? Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I think L'Amour. I don't know. I'm going back to like Metal Evolution. That's the last time I think I remember them kind of talking about L'Amour's and Ruthie's Inn and stuff like that.
I'd say Murder in the Front Row is probably the best specific genre or subgenre documentary I've seen lately.
Really? Okay.
It's very good.
It's
all a Bay Area.
Because Slave to the Grind was good, but it was lacking in a couple areas, I remember. And they talked too much about AC.
Yeah, I mean, they were a part of it, but like it didn't. It seemed like it was that documentary was more shaped on what they were able to get.
That's true.
Not as like this is like everything's out there. You just have to ask the right people, ask the right questions, put it together. But it's got everybody was in the scene.
Sure,
it's still alive. It's an amazing.
You have to check that out. I don't know why I haven't gotten that. I usually get a hold of most.
I just bought it on like Vimeo or something for $5. And
oh no shit!
Downloaded it.
Okay, yeah, I have to check it out.
It's well worth it though.
So after that, that's when Eddie Billy leaves, and that's kind of right around the time that Sean Killian comes on board on vocals, and right after Sean Killian comes on board is when they add Robb Flynn from Forbidden Evil before they became Forbidden. And he joins Phil Demmel on guitar, and now we're off to the races with Vio-Lence. And basically what this record is it's basically a re-recording of a lot of the songs from their first demo and kind of became the sort of basis for their debut. And I guess the original was put out in Mechanic Records is what I sort of found.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, and I can't remember what my reissue is.
Oh, yeah, it says they're here.
Yeah, it's Mechanic Records. I don't know shit about Mechanic Records, but...
They put out Dream Theater.
Oh, the first one?
Voivod.
Mechanic Records? No shit. Which Voivods? Probably those, like... weird...
Outer Limits.
Oh, that came out in...
Angel Rat.
Holy shit.
I think it might have been a subsidiary of something else.
Huh. Maybe MCA?
MCA.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because
MC Futurists. It used to be Futurist then as well. Which ended up doing like Bride stuff and a lot of...
I was going to say, yeah, Bride and Anathema were on Futurist at one point.
This was just a sub-label, so if they went bankrupt, they wouldn't bankrupt the whole company.
Bankrupt the whole company. That's smart.
Just very...
Yeah, corporations know smart things. But I think, like, you know, one of the things that, as we mentioned, like the lineup and stuff, before we get to the guitars, because, man, the highlight of this record is definitely the guitar playing, is Sean.
And the vocals.
Sean is interesting. That's why I think we need to talk about him first.
He's got, like, definitely more hardcore punk. He's got a lot of Jello Biafra as far as, his voice goes up and down in weird kind of ways. But then a lot of like Anglo New York hardcore kind of vibes to it as well. There's not. That's why I think it's one of the last great thrash kind of outings because it got everything right. Mm-hmm. It got the palm mutings on point. Speed is there, but there's lots of hardcore in this too, as far as like the breakdowns, the gang vocals, just phrasing of vocals has tons of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the shouting gang vocals kind of help, you know, it's like the staccato type style that they use there. He sort of does like a rapping thing.
He's all over the place. He doesn't follow the music.
Yeah, he has his own like rhythmic, again, rapping in the way that like John Tardy kind of raps.
Yeah.
Like there's like
you could definitely do the hand.
There's like kind of a bobbing beat to like what he's sort of doing.
Yeah. Or like with Serial Killer, you know, how he's doing that.
Yeah.
Silent Grave. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that shout in that song.
It's so good.
It's pretty awesome.
I couldn't tell what the fuck it was until I looked at the lyrics.
What did they say there?
My Silent Grave.
My Silent Grave. Okay.
Yeah.
It just sounds like I'm listening to like an old like late 80s like hardcore record.
And that's where you lay.
Yeah.
My Silent Grave.
Oh, okay. Interesting subject matter throughout the whole record too. You know, Kill on Command about a hitman and just weird stuff. The drug song, Take It As You Will.
Yeah. I always like when they've got an acronym
yeah
song too. That's always like,
well, that was a famous Anthrax thing, you know, Nice Fucking Life,
yeah,
and things like that. But I think like the title track that we just sort of started off with, we've played that before. We opened a Patreon show on metal artwork when we talked about Ed Repka with that tune. So our patrons have heard us probably talk a little bit about Vio-Lence. I don't know how deep we kind of got into it there. And that was kind of right around the time you were really starting to get into that record. I think you had
only this year
picked it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I had played it for you or told you about it, and then you end up getting on vinyl. And
I got it for. You told my ex-wife to get it for me for Christmas.
Oh, I kind of helped get it for you for Christmas. That's what it was.
Like over a pandemic, I was building a room in the basement that would later go on to become like a little insulated drum room, and I listened to it just over and over for like 4 or 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised like how short it actually was, and it never like bothered me at all. Or I never thought like it just felt like refreshing every time I heard it over and over and over.
Absolutely. Again. And I think there's so many things like happening. Like I'm looking at my little review that I wrote for History of Heavy Metal Countdown for this, you know, title track song. I said that their Bay Area thrash metal champions Vio-Lence may have been latecomers to the scene, but they quickly made up for lost time with their scathing debut. Guitarist Phil Demmel and Robb Flynn unleash a cavalcade of aggressive riffs throughout. But the title track is extra special. After a great intro, the nasty speed kicks in at the 40-second mark with no frills before the controversial Sean Killian's vocals rip in. He can't sing, but he does it fast and with hardcore-esque panache, so it works for the approach and grows on you. Shout out to Dean Dell, who we haven't mentioned him yet, his killer bass, which rivals D.D. Verni here.
Yeah. It's up in the mix. It's poppy. I like it's not in the sense of pop music, but
no,
like
it pops the way D.D. does on Overkill records.
Yeah. You know, it like makes itself. It's more of a percussive instrument than like how some bass players are more kind of fluid.
And I would make an argument too, speaking of the beginning of this song and the beginning of the album, that like intro riff is one of the best thrash intro riffs ever written.
Every song has a great. There's so many great breakdowns. And it's just that's because when I listened to it over and over and over again, I was like, shit, what even song is this? So it's like I'd go back to what was the vocal hook that I really liked?
The hooks, The song that stands out the most besides this one is the next song we're going to play. To me, those are the two songs that sound the most kind of different from each other. You know, Phobophobia. Yeah. Because Phobophobia has like a lot of weird guitar parts that are kind of stacked up in a weird way and weird vocals kind of stuff. But what were you saying? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, I would throw Serial Killer in that as well. That's the one it came down to that fucking gang vocal.
That gang vocals is incredible.
God, I love it. It's so good.
And I mean, there's so much like the way that there's something dramatic about the way that Phil Demmel and Flynn like build the riffs. There's like a tension between them. And like in that opening song, it's just like breakdown after breakdown after breakdown that's sort of going. And there's one at like the 2:30 mark that has like incredible bass work. And Sean has like this awesome like vocal moment before like another huge fucking bass breakdown takes us into like one of the best solos in thrash history.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's 6 minutes, but there's a lot going on in 6 minutes. I mean, we talked about that in our previous episode last week, Dark Angel, just like how all these riff after riff after riff. This is one of those records.
I didn't really see anything about writing of the record. Did you see any like breakdowns of?
I think it's Demmel. I believe so. I think he was kind of the guy that seems to get most of the credit. I mean, he's the guy that does the forward here. Just from like the savagery of like the guitar playing, you sort of get a sense that it was kind of his band. I'm looking for credits here. I mean, Robb Flynn's certainly capable of writing good songs because I like some of the stuff he's done with Machinehead, and I hate some of the stuff he's done with Machinehead. It's very hit or miss. But,
it's weirdly hit and miss.
And when Demmel comes back, that record that Demmel is on, the Blackening, is just like fucking riff after riff after riff. And I heard that before I heard Vio-Lence, so it was like it made so much more sense after I went back to Eternal Nightmare why that record like hits like the way it does.
Okay.
Because I don't know, like Machinehead to me, I didn't really know much about Robb Flynn when Machinehead came out. I mean, Machinehead came out when I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah, I knew. Well, when that first came out, they were still throwing around Vio-Lence.
Were they? Robb Flynn as like a relevant kind of thing,
or like where he came from.
And I might have seen that in Metal Maniacs, like a hype
sticker or something,
but I didn't. It didn't connect to me because to me, Machinehead was like part of like Pantera and like it was part of like that thing. It was a Roadrunner. It was like Fear Factory, Machinehead, like these sort of like bands that weren't death metal, but like they were harder than stuff that was on the radio. They were pushing into that direction. And that was a point where I was buying almost everything on Roadrunner. Like I was the perfect age.
Safe bet.
15 years old. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it wasn't like too advanced for extreme metal, if you want to call it that. It was like gateway drug type shit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was like helping some of them. Like that wasn't even mainstream, but as far as like softening
it felt more mainstream than like death metal to us.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely more digestible than death metal is for sure.
Yeah, but there's just there.
It seems like they had something to prove when they wrote this. Or it's either that, or it's one of those records where they've been, basically nailing all this material before.
Well, they had recorded this demo and redone this demo, so it's like when you get to the end of Eternal Nightmare, which we just obviously started with, like you're in their web, like you're on board, like they if that song doesn't beat you over the head and kind of convince you that this is like. It's hard for me to articulate how great that song is. I would just put it in the upper echelons of thrash metal ever. It's like Holy Wars. The first time you hear Holy Wars, you're like, whoa, they just fucking kitchen synced us.
Maybe we could say it's one of the best debut thrash records.
I like that.
Because everybody else kind of eased into it. This is like right off the bat, like, holy shit.
I think the only band of this era that does something like this. Exodus, Bonded by Blood, and I would say The Legacy from Testament.
Yeah.
Those kind of come hot out the gate. Yeah. Like fully formed. I mean, Kill 'Em All to some extent, but it's still youthful and naive.
It wasn't their sound yet either.
That's true. It's still pretty New Album-y. And same with like
Masters, where they
Show No
really
Mercy,
became
still pretty
themselves.
priesty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is fully formed.
Like right out the gate.
Yeah. I mean, this is a 6-minute song with like 6 different solos and bass breakdowns and fucking intro and out like.
And it feels fun too.
Oof. Yeah.
Like how
you're
Exodus
along for the
feels
ride,
fun.
man. Yeah. I want to listen to more when I get to this song.
Like I would, well, if this shit ever comes back to a point where we can see shows again, it'd be fun to mosh a little bit.
Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. And I guess like the big thing, I think the big thing Phil talks about is that, they disbanded in 93, and we're not talking about any other record besides Eternal Nightmare, because Mark and I both admitted to each other, I haven't heard their other stuff.
No, I just kept listening to this. I never went.
Yeah, I know they have other records after this, at least one more. Is it like Oppressing the Masses or something like that?
Yeah, there's a friend of mine that he's in a couple local bands, and he got the second record and apparently really likes it. And he's got a pretty good taste in music, so I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'm just admitting, it's like when we're going to do a Whiplash show down the road. There are a ton of Whiplash records. I've only ever heard Power and Pain, and I'm sure the others have decent ratings. I just haven't heard them.
Yeah,
I don't know. If
there's so much. Yeah, I remember hearing Whiplash about them, and I thought the cover was stupid, and I never gave them. I mean, there's so many things you had to hit right to even get my attention.
Yeah,
at that
that's
age.
true. You're fickle.
So
I'm
now,
fickle.
Now going back, I was like, God, this is great.
Yeah,
the
why did I skip
stupid,
this shit?
It sounds fantastic.
But I guess what like really helped kind of get Vio-Lence back in the lexicon is they reunited when Chuck Billy put together called Thrash of the Titans Festival in 01. And
right.
They got a pretty big response from that, and it gave them confidence to like kind of start, putting some live shows together and things like that. So there's a chance. Although something recently, and I should have looked this up. One of the dudes from this band, it might have been Sean, recently did something like cancel culture-y, like in the last like month or so. I remember like there was like a big fucking deal about it on Twitter. And, Robb's pretty outspoken about stuff. He puts his foot in his mouth all the time. I
sure
don't
does.
think it was Phil, but I can't say that with 100% of certainty. So Mark's kind of looking for that. But there was something that recently happened. I made a mental note. I was like, oh shit, we should probably bring that up when we do Eternal Nightmare episode. But
he had stage 4 liver cirrhosis and survived.
Who's that, Sean?
Yeah.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was something Phil said that was dumb. But I don't know. I can't remember if it was homophobic or it was just some kind of comment that just didn't. It was just bad for its era.
Anymore that I don't jump right to. Everything is so polarized.
Mm-hmm.
I like to see where the original shit came from.
Sure. Yeah.
Before I'm going to jump on anybody.
And that's why I didn't bring it up or write it down. But I just remember thinking, that might be like
because I
problematic.
say stupid shit, but I don't do it in a public forum. But if somebody caught me saying, calling something gay because I was talking about how people used to talk in high school. Yeah. And somebody hears that like, oh, you're a homophobe. Like, no, I was just talking about.
You were just.
What used to happen 25 years ago.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if you find it or not, but.
All that I'm seeing on him is just a bunch of like successful liver transplants.
Oh, yeah. So maybe it's Phil. It might be Phil Demmel then that did it. So. But, other songs that we're going to kind of get into here in this next set, we got a trio of tunes that we're going to get into that really get to the heart of like kind of all the different flavors from Eternal Nightmare. And really like the title track is like a preview of all this. One tune, Serial Killer, that you just mentioned, that to me is the most like Anthrax, Overkill, Nuclear Assault song on the record in terms of like hardcore, crossover kind of vocals. I hear a lot of Destruction riffs, though. I don't know if you caught on to some of that. Like, there's a lot of Exodus, Bonded by Blood type riffings. But to me, the other band that like they're really tapping into a lot is some of the German thrash shit.
I think the same with our last show
that we did. Oh, Dark Angel.
With Dark Angel, that's like the Teutonic, tapping into the Teutonic. I think that whole later era thrash, that seems to be like speed was a big thing.
I'll be curious because we are planning to put together like a Forbidden show on those first 2 records, and I haven't dived into those records like recently.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I'm kind of curious if like it comes back, if like we hear it in that band too, because they were another latecomer to the sort of thrash scene or whatever. So, but then we got. Did you find something?
It's stupid. Vio-Lence's Phil Demmel accidentally ripped out a stage diver's hair with his guitar.
Oh, is that what it was?
I mean, that's the only thing I could find so far. So,
yeah, that's not bad. Whatever. That's just kind of stupid and funny, I guess.
That's just what happens sometimes.
I mean, better that he committed violence on somebody than said something unfortunate, right? Because saying words obviously are worse than like actual physical violence.
Yeah, yes, exactly. In this day and age, it sure is. Yes.
So, but Phobophobia, which is the fear of fear.
So anxiety.
Mm-hmm. And what's cool about this song, and once I realized that, so a couple of things clicked in. This whole song starts slow and slowly gets faster and faster and more complex as the main character is getting more and more anxious. It's kind of cool. And I don't think that was unintentional. I don't think you call the song Phobophobia if you're not trying to like kind of create like a whirling dervish effect.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean, the door, when the Doors do This Is, the End, that's one of the coolest parts about that song is how it just like becomes frenetic throughout and it gets like kind of this whirling dervish kind of crazy feel by the end. And I'm not saying this song does that, but it definitely keeps building and building and building. And it's another 6-minute sort of epic tune. I actually think Phobophobia has my favorite Sean vocals.
Really?
It's like his most diverse vocal performance throughout.
Yeah.
The main riff, catchy, one tempo shift after another. Just a lot of really cool shit happening here. And so we're going to start with Phobophobia and then go into Serial Killer. And then we'll end this set with T.D.S. And I don't know, like...
Take it as you will.
Take it as you will, yeah. And to me, I'm kind of curious if you pick up on this. We noticed in the Dark Angel show that there was a lot of proto-death metal riffing.
Mm-hmm.
This song, to me, is death metal. Without the vocals and without some of the death metal drumming. So we'll play it when we go to the sets just so you can kind of hear it. But it was something that sort of jumped out to me. A lot of great Exodus chant vocals here. I mean, I don't know. What do you say about Vio-Lence? They're great.
If you don't own this record, you should definitely buy the record.
What are you doing? Yeah, exactly. So
stream it on whatever service.
This trio of songs should be if this doesn't seal the deal, you're just never going to be a Vio-Lence fan. I think. But what I would say is that Sean gives people trouble at first, but just try and look for how he is unique and kind of like he doesn't get in the way of the music.
No, not at all.
He kind of floats on top of the music. And he's not like, and that's an interesting, he's like kind of sing-songing or chanting or hardcore vocaling like on top of all this really well-played, intricate, well-composed music.
Well, and not always doing the obvious choices, which I like. Even if that's like from naivete or whatever, it's cool. I don't care why it is. I'm just glad it is.
And that's like what I think I hear in Phobophobia is he's doing like a lot of unconventional kind of vocal choices that I think are pretty cool. So
let's get into anything like I can't think of his goddamn name from Exodus.
Baloff. Yeah.
Like he was not a great singer, but he was a great frontman and he knew how to like work the crowd and he was like fun.
Sure.
It works. Like you can feel the fun through his voice.
I was just reading an interview the other day with Gary Holt, and he was kind of reflecting on Paul Baloff and saying like how much he loved him, but like when they went into the recording studio, like he couldn't hit the things. Like they just had to do take after take.
It's like Eazy-E going in to record for NWA.
Yeah, and they asked him. They said if Baloff had lived long enough to be on Temple of the Damned, what do you think about that record? And his comment was, we'd still be in the studio trying to record it. And he meant it like endearingly, like out of love for his old friend. But he was like, in all honesty, like it really hindered the band. That's why we had to go with Steve Souza eventually, because we couldn't move forward.
It was really cool that I got to see them at 97.
Yeah, at Metal Fest.
Yeah.
That was
cool.
That was something. It's a bummer. That was something I didn't appreciate. Because I was just graduating high school, and I don't think I
barely did.
I kind of
it was like fresh in my mind.
Yeah,
so, because it was like put out the live record and stuff too.
Who else did we see there?
Slayer?
No, Slayer was the year before.
Okay.
Venom.
Yes,
I did appreciate Venom. I knew what a big deal that kind
original
of was.
lineup.
Yeah,
that's never happened again.
And that we got to eat birthday cake with them. And
well, that's Danny Filth.
Yeah, but Venom was backstage.
Was Kronos there?
Yeah, we took that fun Kronos picture. Dan Lochner was back there. Tack Green was back there. I don't know how long they stayed. I think they floated through.
Because I got some photos of us where we were back by the dudes from Napalm too.
Yep. But there's like pictures of like me and Kronos like with arms around each other, and you took a photo
on Facebook or something.
Yeah,
I think I've still got the negatives.
And I think those guys knew each other because Kronos had just been on not Cruelty and the Beast, the Dusk in Her Embrace. Remember, he does Haunted Shores.
Oh shit!
He comes in with those vocals at the end. He's like, "I am the," like really kind of cool thing there. But yeah, I wish I had appreciated Exodus more when we saw them there, but
they're still good now.
Yeah, we saw him with Motorhead. No, Anthrax. Who'd we see him with like a couple years ago?
King Diamond.
Was it Diamond? Yeah, it was when they played Abigail.
Yep. Gary Hill wasn't there though.
That's true. He was playing.
But Sousa was there.
Oh yeah,
that was the first time I got to see Sousa. So that was interesting.
Pretty interesting. So here we go. We got a trio of tunes here from Eternal Nightmare. We got Phobophobia, Serial Killer, Mark's favorite. It's gonna get caught in your head. And Take It As You Will, the Drug Song, or T.D.S.
What's all they say? I choose to stay here, but my fears have been eaten away. I'm untouched, with no insight. Don't close my eyes, I've been at devil to collision tonight. You're trying to do west. What can't you see? I'm nervous, frightened, tormented by everything. You'll never know just what it's like. You can't imagine what disturbing will in my mind. In constant paranoia keeps me looking over my shoulder. I'm headed to the fears of a rain and the chin of a little cheers. What it might be? So much in my life or in my death. Destruction, I'm going to destroy the world. Imagine I'm figure of speech. My mind is locked in eternity out of my reach. Riches, eating and drinks. Start to be judgments written all over your face. Death, a grab your love. The body's devoured and pull up with the women you kill. Don't be alive, the misery you kill. I'm gonna bury you today. The family, the feel, no roses, the same as hillside. That's where you lay. We'll be alive, the misery of kill. I'm gonna bury you today. No family, no feel, no roses, the same as hillside. That's where you lay. Buried the bodies behind. Their left was such an echoing into his mind. Driven, possessed by a will that takes over and drives him out to the till. Submit to me now. It's his own error, but the sin to come down. In time, he raised in the flame. He grounds his God for your innocent life to be saved. We'll be alive, and the surreal God for the bury you today. The family, no deal, no roses, no sin, it's hillside. Well, that's where you lay.
That was T.D.S, Serial Killer, and Phobophobia. Did you think that was a death metal riff? Kind of what I was talking about there with T.D.S?
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Kind of proto-death. It just had this like razor sharp kind of thing going for it that was a little more sinister than your average kind of thrash riff. Just kind of in the opening salvo there.
I was just trying to think of a band. I can't picture like who it is.
Exactly.
It's like very reminiscent.
I couldn't connect it, but I felt like that. So if you guys in the audience kind of know what I'm hearing there, let me know, because Mark and I are old and we forget things now. And it's kind of the way it goes.
You only listen to so much stuff at a time.
Yeah,
you can retain.
I'm almost at maximum brain capacity lately with
I bet.
Teaching virtual. Basically, I have to do like virtual kids and in class, and then like coaching. I've talked about this on one of the Patreon shows. Like it used to be, I coached middle school and high school cross country, and it used to be we ran meets on the same days at the same places, and now it's 2 separate days, 2 separate places. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to twice as many meets during the week. Oof. Then I'm doing twice as much teaching stuff because I'm like having to make sure like everything is like lesson planned and ready for like the virtual kids, and all the resources are there for them.
Yeah.
And that it's just, my brain's just at that point where I'm like,
you're redoing what you've been doing like consistently for years now. So it's
I was gonna say like it's like a new job. This year almost. 18, so it's like, oh, okay, I got to rethink everything I do. And we're doing 100-minute lessons as blocks now, basically, instead of like 50-minute lessons. So it's like, okay, it's fine. I mean, it's like 2 lessons a day is how I kind of think about it in my brain, but it's still like, there's still physical bodies in your room, so you have to like give them a break mentally, or plan things. See, kids can't sit for 100 straight minutes and just do shit or listen to you talk.
I mean, I could barely do that now.
Yeah,
unless I'm watching the Dead Kennedys documentary on YouTube or something.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. Something that's really, really, truly engaging. Yeah, that's cool. So those are kind of for people that know that I'm a teacher, it's just been an interesting ride, so, which is why I've been probably quiet on the history of heavy metal countdown and some other things, which hopefully by the time this episode hits, cross country will be kind of in the horizon, or behind me. Horizon. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Be in the horizon depending where you're standing.
Yeah, no. Yeah. In my rear view mirror is what I kind of meant to say. So one of the things that I thought would be kind of cool is Martin Popoff put out the trio of books on thrash, and we talked a lot about some of the stuff from the first book when we did the proto metal countdown, because there was a lot of stuff for 81 and 82 a couple years we covered near the end of that countdown. But in the 2, there's the Golden Era of Thrash, which is his second book, and then there's Thrash's Titanic Clash, which is kind of like the late 80s, early 90s kind of stuff. But as I was kind of leafing through it, looking for material for all these kind of thrash extravaganza episodes that we're putting together, I did come across moments where they sort of paint a broad brush and talk about kind of like a thrash-y topic that was kind of impactful for a lot of things. And so I thought this was kind of cool because they get into like lyrics a little bit and some of the topics that were kind of covered. And, Serial Killer, the drug song, Phobophobia, Kill on Command, which we're going to sort of end with, is about a hitman and things like that.
That's the most Exodus sounding song.
That is definitely Exodus-y. But and speaking of Exodus, they get a quote from Gary Holt, and they're talking about thrash lyrics a little bit, and kind of, especially Reagan, because Reagan drove a lot of like the American hardcore scene and things like that in terms of reaction to that.
As Thatcher did New Album.
Yeah,
Punk.
Exactly. And so Gary Holt says, I don't know, it seems thrash metal thrives during Republican administrations. I don't know why. He says, Zuntai, 2/5 of this band are diehard conservatives, and me, I'm kind of an extremist liberal. I don't know. I think it's probably more coincidence than anything. Just the time the music was already coming out. I don't want to give Reagan credit for anything other than bad movies. Just lyrically sometimes with stuff like Chemical and other pro-environment, anti-toxic polluting songs. Musically, it was always about the riff. Politics never came into the picture musically. It's always been a riff-based genre. It wasn't built on 3 chords and a chorus. It was built on 1,000 riffs played as aggressively as possible.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and speaking of 1,000 riffs, we just got done listening.
When this interview was?
No, I don't.
Because it's really nice to hear that there's people that have differing political views in the same band and they don't kill each other.
That's true. Yeah, this is definitely pre-social media, I'm guessing, when this book was sort of put together.
That used to be a thing.
Yeah. And then Slagle talks about thrash lyrics a little bit too. And he says, definitely there's a lot of political stuff. I think there was another reason why that music was so successful back then, because there was a lot of angst and political unrest. So that stuff definitely crept in a lot. And horror and fantasy were a big driving force. Slayer, for example, all those horror and satanic and fantasy lyrics that were all borrowed from the traditional metal of the 70s, like Pre-Sabbath, then Maiden in the early 80s. There was definitely a punk influence there too. So you had some of that real political social commentary stuff in the lyrics. It was one or the other. You pretty much had Exodus Bonded by Blood, violent, graphic, horror, fantasy lyrics, or you had the political lyrics. But it was always saying something interesting. It wasn't just throwing something out there to throw out there. A lot of people had really interesting takes on things. And as these bands get bigger, they see the world and have these other influences under a different mindset economically. You're going to look at different things, and stuff you talk about is going to be more intense. Certainly in the 80s, or as the 80s and the Reagan era wore on with all the problems in the economy, certainly Metallica was one of the big ones with Injustice for All and even Master of Puppets, which is a song about the evil of drugs. It ran the gamut but was always dark and serious. That was important. The image and the lyrics were always very dark and serious, and the music was serious as well and extreme. You've got an extreme form of music, so you've got to have those extreme lyrics.
And that's why it makes sense that death metal was about even worse shit. Usually, like, political stuff didn't make it because it was too...
That stayed, I think, in grindcore. I think that just stayed kind of in the grind kind of capacity.
I mean, like Death would talk about social issues, but it wasn't... It was about, like, a snapshot of a horrific thing happening to a person, or... It wasn't usually, like, shitting on the government or something.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about, abortion a little bit with, like, altering the future and obviously organized religion and some of those. And, those could be, I guess, seen as kind of quasi-political. They didn't really... Religion, you knew where they were coming down on. They were just kind of talking about, abortion from just, like, a different perspective. That was kind of...
Abortion when it is needed.
yeah, exactly. Kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I know you're not a big lyric guy. You're kind of more of a feel guy. I don't know if...
Well, I like when lyrics kind of like reinforce good things that I like about stuff. Mm-hmm. When they're not so bad that they stand out. That's good. I do care about how lyrics are constructed, not necessarily the subject matter, but like the actual English language, like a good, turn of a word, a turn of a kind of phrase.
The rhythmic phrasing and stuff like that. That's
really hard shit to do. So I really respect when people can do that. And the weird pseudo rapping, it's like Tom Araya vocals, like sped up almost. Like,
yeah.
You've done Slayer karaoke.
Yeah.
That's not some easy shit.
It's hard.
Speedy, loud, succinct, like HR from
Bad Brains.
From Bad Brains, like, can do it, and there's a handful of people that can do it.
Yeah.
But it's a tough fucking thing. Like, Rollins could kind of do it, but it's difficult. His was
shit. Shouty though. It was kind of different. Yeah.
And he held it out long. It wasn't as like,
staccato
rapid fire. Yeah.
And that's what's always impressed me, like, sometimes with like some of the best like hip hop MCs that can like have like that fast like rhythmic flow that connects.
Yeah.
And I feel like Sean's got a little flow.
I think he does.
For whatever you want to call it, he's definitely got some flow. So, but yeah. Any kind of closing thoughts as we sort of wrap up Vio-Lence and Eternal Nightmare here in terms of like lasting impacts? Do you hear bands that were kind of inspired by this, or even like second or third wave kind of thrash bands like in the retro wave thing that's going on, or the retro thrash thing?
Yeah, I don't know if the retro thrash thing really, they seem to always be kind of pulling out of the same pool of ideas.
They don't seem as like intricately, like the leads and stuff it's all like really simplified stuff, like the way like Toxic Holocaust or
I think it's people
Art Noir
on that lo-fi
or,
side, or like the more like kids, they grew up, they tried to find out what their bands were. Mm-hmm. So they find these obscure bands on YouTube, old 80s bands that nobody really gave a shit about. Now they have like a new life because there's only like a set amount of those bands.
Sure. Yeah.
I think they're pulling that kind of like the more lo-fi weird shit, but I don't know of anybody that's doing anything that sounds like this.
Yeah, because it's like it's pummeling and it's aggressive, but it's incredibly like musical and like the solos are all very technical and that I don't hear as much with like the retro thrash. Retro thrash seems to be like kind of deconstructed a little bit,
I would say Power Trip is probably the closest thing.
Yeah, that's probably...
that Nightmare Logic record, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, there's whatever. It's the new flavor of the month.
Yeah.
And pre the dude passing away, the singer, I'd listened to that record pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And that was like one of those few, like the first couple Toxic Holocaust records, and that, more so than like Municipal Waste always seemed like I don't know, they didn't like hit the thing that they seem more into like, what's the, oh god damn, what the fuck is it? Surf Nicaragua.
Oh.
What's that band? Sacred Right.
Sacred Right, thank you.
They seem more like those kind of like bands that I didn't really get into as much. It wasn't like my vibe as much. I think they're a good band, but they didn't hit the stuff I really liked.
Got it.
In thrash. But I think that Nightmare Logic record, just they find the riff.
Yeah.
And there's barely any leads on it. It's all just like palm muting and people having a fucking good time and screaming about politics.
Yeah. And killing. Killing on command. Yeah. Which we're going to kind of wrap up here with. And Kill on Command, as you pointed out, it's definitely I had notes on it. Oh, I said it's kind of built off like a weird Slayer riff. It's like a Psychopathy Red. Yeah. I mean, Psychopathy Red is built off of this riff, if we're being honest. But I said this. It reminds me of if Anthrax was writing a Haunting the Chapel riff.
That's fair.
I don't know what that means, but it made sense when I wrote it.
Well, I think they have more
it's
of
like evil and sinister, but it's still got that fun pop that like Anthrax
It's got
has.
a New York sensibility to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a weird hodgepodge. You know, the fact these guys are from California is strange to me.
If you would have, just like played this and say, where do you think they're from? I would have said New York or Jersey.
I would have until the solos come in. Then I would have paused
That's
and said,
very different.
Holy shit, that's like, that could be Skolnick, or that could be, that could be one of the more, because you didn't hear his, Danny Spitz was not throwing out the most technical solos for Anthrax or anything like that.
They weren't,
Gustafson was for Overkill. He definitely had some of that solo work, but
Danny Spitz was more of a like scale guy.
Yeah.
And he could do it fast, but they weren't like, outside of like Indians, what do you remember for like, and that's not even really a solo, that's more just like kind of a,
he's doing like the melody.
That's like Ian doing they're doing like a twin harmony on that. But really, I don't remember a whole lot of Anthrax solos. It's like, it's the drum pattern, it's the vocal pattern, it's the chunk, it's the chug,
It's the chug, yeah. So it's interesting, because you think of like Mustaine, or you think of those guys, and that's like a West Coast thing more than like an East Coast thrash thing, But
I mean, even going back to punk, it's kind of that. Or think of like Velvet Underground and then what was going on the West Coast at the same time. It's like, okay,
Hendrix, and absolutely. There's a little bit more show offiness versus the sort of stripped down New York kind of
that working class versus the other classes.
And then you have us in Detroit, which was a merger of both.
Yeah,
I mean, you had Kramer playing some pretty killer solos, but still stripped down and kind of
the
violent.
Whole of R&B and all this great like garage rock and shit and Cooper and
absolutely
all that stuff.
So we're going to end with Kill on Command. And so hopefully you enjoyed our short little venture here into Eternal Nightmare. And I'll make it something I need to do, that Mark and I will check out the follow-up to this, Suppressing the Masses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We need to. It's long overdue, as much as we love this record. And I looked
when we get homework, it's always good to do funny shows.
It's good. It has a pretty good rating on Metal Archive, so it's people seem to dig it. But let us know what you thought. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. And you can shoot us an email with comments. We do appreciate feedback. When we do get feedback, we try and read it on the air a little bit. We're going to do that a lot more. So shoot us an email at requiempodcast@gmail.com. You can become a patron. We're going to be doing patron episodes. If you didn't hear the Dark Angel episode, I mentioned that the first kind of bonus thrash episode we'll do for our patrons will be a Flotsam and Jetsam on their first two records. And you can go to patreon.com /Requiem Podcast, or you can link to our Patreon from our website, which is requiemmetal.com. And you can find old episodes there. You can find Patreon links there. You can find merch there. If you want to get some Requiem merch, Mark's artwork is linked there.
Get yourself some grocery bags that I don't know if they let you use those anymore, do they?
I think you can bring your own in.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen people.
I have cats, so like to get litter bags.
There you go. Yeah. The same thing. I use them for all my trash bags, the plastic bags and stuff like that. But yeah, so reach out to us. Subscribe on Apple Music or on Spotify for now, as Mark alluded to in the Dark Angel
let me know
episode.
if you hear anything weird about those.
Yeah,
ads.
I'll probably hear it first as well because I do listen to some podcasts off of Spotify. It's weird. I listen to podcasts on like 4 different platforms. I don't know why. I could listen to them all in one place, but I just choose not to. It's like fun to hit different apps on my phone, I think
it depends on the interface too, because like Spotify, there's a couple things I listen to that it pops up on the homepage.
Got it.
So I'll keep listening to it there, and other shit I'll have in my iTunes podcast downloader thing. Like, it just depends.
Same. And I think it's maybe because if I kept them all in one place, it's like I'd forget about them. But because I have to bounce to different apps, I'm like, oh, this is where I listen to a couple of my wrestling ones is over here.
Yeah.
This is where I listen to like my movie ones is on Spotify. Like I listen to a couple of movie ones.
Yeah, otherwise you just forget.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just like a bunch. Like I'm just scrolling through. I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
And my like retention rate on podcasts is not very good either.
It's tough. Yeah.
So
yeah, and I've kind of like quit political podcasts just for my own sort of sanity and sensibility. A lot of my teacher friends are like always giving me updates on like, here's what the odds are in the election, and here's this trend, and which is fine.
If there's anything we should have learned from the last election is that don't listen to polls.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also fine because that means I don't have to do the heavy lifting. You just give me like the summary, and then I don't have to like go through the pain of having to listen to like politics.
The commentators.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
as a history teacher. Part. It's rough. It's painful, but for me, I should be listening to stuff more, but I have to like keep some mental health, and so I'm just. Nope, not gonna do it.
That's a good, smart way to do it.
And there you go. There's our advice for you in a Thrash episode. Keep your mental health. Stay away from politics. Kill on fucking command. Exactly. So for Eternal Nightmare, Vio-Lence, we got Kill on Command. I am Jason.
And I'm Mark.